The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. In the middle of endless golden sand, under a sky as silent as eternity, a single man woke beside the wreckage of his plane. The desert stretched in every direction, swallowing the horizon. The engine had failed days ago, and the pilot, weary, thirsty, and utterly alone, had no choice but to land where no man should ever land. His only companions were the sun, the wind, and the distant whisper of time. He thought this would be the place he would die. But then, as the dawn broke over the dunes and the first light kissed the earth, he heard a voice, soft, clear, and impossibly calm. "Please, draw me a sheep." The pilot turned, stunned. There, standing before him, was a boy no taller than his shoulder, dressed in a tiny green coat, with hair the color of wheat under the morning sun. His eyes were the kind you don't forget, wide, innocent, and yet ancient, as if they'd seen the edge of the universe and carried its quiet secret. "Draw me a sheep," the little boy repeated. The pilot blinked, certain he was hallucinating from thirst, but the child waited unafraid, as if asking for something completely ordinary. And so, with trembling hands, the pilot found a scrap of paper and drew. His first drawing was of a boa constrictor that had swallowed an elephant, a picture from his childhood no adult had ever understood. The boy looked at it and frowned. "No, no," he said softly. "I don't want a boa constrictor with an elephant inside. I want a sheep." So the pilot drew again. A sheep too old, too sick, too thin. The boy shook his head. Again, another. Too big, too fierce. Finally, frustrated, the pilot sketched a small box and said, "This is the box. The sheep you want is inside." The boy's eyes lit up. His face broke into a smile so pure it pierced the pilot's heart. "That's exactly the one I wanted," he whispered. And that's how it began, the friendship between a lost man and a traveler from the stars. Over the next days, as the pilot worked desperately to fix his plane, the little prince spoke. He spoke of a planet no larger than a house. His home, the asteroid B612. He spoke of how he cleaned his volcanoes every morning and pulled up the bad baobab trees before they grew too big and split his tiny world apart. He spoke of sunsets, 44 in a single day, when he felt lonely and wanted to see something beautiful. But most of all, he spoke of a flower, a single rose. She had grown on his planet one morning, delicate and vain. She demanded attention, worried about the wind, asked for a screen against drafts, and coughed dramatically to make him feel guilty. The prince loved her more than he understood love itself. But her vanity, her pride, her little lies made him doubt. And so one day he left, believing she did not love him back. He took a flock of migrating birds and began his journey through the stars. The pilot listened in silence, the desert wind whispering through the dunes. Each word from the boy carried something beyond his years, a melancholy that only those who've loved and lost could know. The prince's laughter filled the emptiness around them like music in a forgotten world. But when he grew quiet, the silence returned heavier than before. The little prince told of the first planet he visited, a place ruled by a king who wore an enormous purple cloak and sat on a throne of gold. "Ah, a subject!" the king exclaimed when he saw him. "But I'm not your subject," said the prince. "All men are my subjects," said the king, and he ordered the boy to yawn, to stop yawning, to rise, to sit, always giving commands only when he was sure they would be obeyed. The prince left, saying gently, "Grown-ups are very strange." On the next planet lived a vain man who wanted nothing but praise. "Clap your hands," he said, "so I can bow." The prince clapped. The man bowed. And when he stopped, the man begged him to start again. The prince sighed, for adults needed admiration like air, yet gave none in return. Then came the drunkard, sitting among empty and full bottles, his eyes lost. "Why do you drink?" the prince asked. "To forget," said the man. "Forget what?" "That I'm ashamed." "Ashamed of what?" "Of drinking." The prince said nothing. He simply left, his heart heavy, his innocence bruised by something he could not understand. On the fourth planet he met the businessman, a man counting stars, writing numbers, claiming ownership of the heavens. "I own them," he said proudly. "I invest them. I manage them." The prince, puzzled, asked, "But what do you do with them?" The man replied, "Nothing. I own them." And again the prince whispered to himself, "Grown-ups are very, very strange." The fifth planet was the smallest, just enough space for a single lamplighter and his lamp. Every minute the lamplighter lit the lamp, then put it out again, for his planet turned faster and faster. "Orders are orders," he said, too busy to rest. The prince admired him most of all. "At least he does something for others," he thought. "When he lights his lamp, he brings light to someone, even if it's only for a moment." The sixth planet was enormous, home to a geographer surrounded by books. The prince asked him about mountains, seas, and deserts, but the man had never seen them. "I'm too important to go exploring," said the geographer. "I record what explorers tell me." The prince asked, "Then tell me about my flower." But the geographer replied, "We don't record flowers. They are ephemeral." The prince's heart sank. His rose was ephemeral, fragile, fleeting, and perhaps already gone. And so he decided to visit one more planet, the Earth. The Earth was vast, filled with people, noise, machines, cities, and deserts. Yet, when the little prince arrived, he found himself alone. He wandered until he met a snake, thin, golden, coiled in the sand. "You are a strange creature," said the prince. "I am more powerful than a king," the snake replied. "I can send anyone back to the earth from which they came." The prince understood, but only later would he understand what the snake truly meant. He wandered further until he climbed a mountain, hoping to see the whole world and find men. But he saw nothing, only rocks, only echoes that mimicked his own words. "I'm lonely," he said, and the echo answered, "Lonely, lonely." He sighed. "How strange," he thought, "to be among men and yet feel so alone." At last he came upon a garden filled with roses, thousands of them. They looked exactly like his flower. He stood still, staring at them, his heart breaking quietly. His rose had told him she was unique in all the universe, and now he saw she was not. She was one among thousands. He lay in the grass and wept. "I thought I was rich," he whispered, "and now I have nothing but an ordinary flower." Then one day, as the sun bled across the fields, a fox appeared. "Play with me," said the prince. "I cannot," said the fox. "I am not tamed." "What does that mean, to tame?" asked the boy. "It means to create ties," said the fox. "To me, you are just a little boy like 100,000 others. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other. You will be unique to me in all the world." So the prince stayed. Day by day he came closer, sitting in the grass a little nearer each time. The fox watched, and slowly something invisible grew between them. Trust, affection, a bond only the heart can see. When the time came to say goodbye, the fox's voice trembled. "Ah," he said, "I shall cry." "It's your own fault," said the prince. "I never wished you harm." "Yes," said the fox, "but you wanted me to be tamed." The prince looked down. "Then what have I gained?" The fox smiled sadly. "You have gained this secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." The boy repeated the words, etching them into his soul. What is essential is invisible to the eye. "And remember," said the fox, "the time you have wasted for your rose makes her so important." When the prince left, the fox called out, "Go look at the roses once more. You'll understand that yours is unique after all." And so he did. Among all the flowers he realized the truth. His rose was unique not because of her petals nor her scent, but because of the love he had given her, the care, the devotion, the time, the pain. She alone had been his friend, his responsibility. He whispered softly, "You are not like the others. You are my rose." And the roses, trembling in the breeze, said nothing. From that moment, the prince's heart ached to return home. But first, he met the pilot, the man stranded in the desert, the man who listened. The pilot had been repairing his plane under the scorching sun, counting every drop of water. Yet when the little prince spoke, time itself seemed to pause. The boy asked questions only a child would dare. If a sheep eats flowers, does it eat even the ones with thorns? The pilot grew angry once, tired and thirsty, snapping that he had more important things to do. The prince looked at him with quiet sadness. "You talk like the grown-ups," he said. And the pilot's anger melted. He took the boy in his arms, ashamed. "You're right," he whispered. "Nothing is more important than a flower you love." Days passed. The stars came alive each night, the wind carrying the faint echo of laughter. The boy laughed often, a sound that seemed to come from another world. "You must not forget," he told the pilot. "It is very important. My flower is waiting for me. I am responsible for her." The pilot nodded, though his heart was breaking. He had learned to love the little prince, his innocence, his curiosity, his quiet wisdom. The desert was no longer empty. It had become a place of friendship. Then, one evening, the prince grew still. "It will be 1 year tomorrow," he said softly. "1 year since I came to earth." The pilot watched him, uneasy. "What do you mean?" The boy smiled faintly. "The snake promised he would help me return home. It will be very far. I will look like I am dying. Don't be afraid. It's just my body. You must not come." The pilot's chest tightened. "Don't talk like that. I've repaired the plane. You can stay with me." The prince shook his head gently. "I cannot. My flower is alone. I must go back to her. You'll see the stars differently after I'm gone. At night you will look at them, and because I will be living on one of them, it will be as if all the stars are laughing." The next day, under the pale light of dawn, the pilot saw him walking across the sand, a small golden figure against the vast horizon. The snake waited there, silent. The prince turned once more and smiled. "You know, it will be nice. I will be among the stars, and you will have a friend among them too." The pilot wanted to cry out, to stop him, but he couldn't move. The boy bent down, and the snake's flash of gold was the last thing he saw. The little prince fell softly like a tree, and the sand caught him as gently as a mother's hands. When the pilot ran to him, the body was still, but in the morning it was gone. He searched for days, hoping, calling. There was no trace, only the stars above, burning brighter than before. He repaired his plane and flew away, but something had changed forever. The desert was still endless, but it was no longer empty. Somewhere among those stars, a boy laughed, and when the wind brushed his cheek, the pilot could almost hear it, a faint echo of that laughter, the same voice that once said, "Please draw me a sheep." Years passed. The pilot lived, but every night he looked at the sky and smiled. "If you ever travel to the desert," he would tell others, "and if a child with golden hair and laughter like music asks you to draw him a sheep, please don't make me wait too long. Send him back to me." For he had learned what the fox had said, "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." And he knew beyond all reason that somewhere among the stars the little prince was tending to his rose, his one unique rose under a sky that never grows old.